Alright guys, we are back for another Dokkan battle video. Let's go and take a look at the DOKKANFEST LR INT BROLY. We're going to do the 55% video here. Again, like I mentioned in the Carnival Gohan video, I wanted to try something a little bit different where I put the Rainbow level 10 link videos up first. So I recorded the footage, like we awakened Broly to LR and all that good stuff. And then I, made the priority the Rainbow level 10 link videos, and then I'm going to put the 55% videos up afterwards. That's what we're going to go ahead and do here. So let's get Broly, Dokkan awakened and all that good stuff, and then we could jump into an event and start talking about him. I think Broly probably is not going to be very good at 55%. I feel like, oh yeah, I had to keep this in here. All right, hold on. Whoa, this is the most difficult thing. Okay, we made it. Easy peasy. Sometimes defensive units could be not quite as good when it comes to being like 55% and stuff like that. Like, that's where they're going to need a lot of the extra stats. I don't know. I mean, the one thing about Broly, though, is that, like, he's got his intro support, and then obviously his domain will be able to buff characters, and then he would still have his revive once you would get to his third rotation. So it's like, he definitely still would have value. Even with, like, his lower ability to tank. Alright, so one thing I definitely did notice there, by the way, I started out in this one just like we started out in the first phase against, within the Carnival Gohan 55% video. Probably not good to open up against Moscow, so we definitely need this domain up right away. Alright, so the thing I've found with INT BROLY is that, especially when we're comparing him to, like, other DOKKANFEST LRs and stuff like that, when Broly has the domain up, I think he's actually very good. Like, that's where his defense is going to be very impressive. Certainly, I think, Broly, once he, like, revives, he has the domain up. I mean, he's going to be able to tank even, the elite boss super attacks, Bulma, as well as the Goku and Frieza, right? The 5 and 6 million super attacks. I think Broly will be able to handle business against them for sure. But it's going to be limited to just when his domain is up. I think Broly is going to encounter some issues very similar to Angel Super Saiyan 3 Goku. Angel Super Saiyan 3 Goku is very good too, but you need to make sure your team is filled up with Buu Saga characters to be able to make sure he has those extra parts of his passive, right? I think it's going to be a very similar thing with INT BROLY too, where, remember, he can only use his active skill, the domain, if the full rotation is uncontrollable power. Now, we have AGL Broly here. I think what I'm going to do when doing some of these tough fights is probably just not run AGL Broly. I mean, because it's like, they're not really similar in what they're doing, but it's like they are fighting over the domain slot. And I certainly would prioritize taking INT Broly being a very competitive defensive character once his domain is up versus AGL Broly being a ridiculously competitive offensive character once his domain is up. Although AGL Broly, he's not weak or defensively transformed, right? But it's just he's obviously much more of like an offensive-based character. I think one thing that could be really huge with INT Broly here is that, like, opening up, I think that extra, because he gives 40% defense for 4 turns to extreme class allies. I think that will be a really nice buff In particular, there's two characters that come to mind, I think, that could really impact to help smooth out for them a little bit. That's if we'd run Selmax in slot 1. The very first hit Selmax takes, he could take a lot of damage. But it's like once he gets hit like once, Selmax's defense starts to get really crazy while that intro is up. And then obviously Easy Attack Broly. Easy Attack Broly is super good, but, you know, kind of right at the start, I think that there are some struggles Easy Attack Broly can have when it comes to receiving hits in base form. I think transformed, from what I've seen, Easy Attack Broly not really encountering too many issues. But, you know, base form, we do need to be a little bit cautious for him. That's where INT Broly can help out, right? Because we have the defensive support, but then there's also the domain support. Remember, the domain is buffing uncontrollable power allies as well. So, I mean, right at the start, he could kind of juice up some of these characters, which certainly could be very helpful. The only thing, though, is that I think, like, using the domain smartly is going to be the way to go with Broly, right? Because while the domain is up, I think he's, like, super good, potentially, like, slot 1 defensive god character to just allow them maybe, like, you know, Tech Broly, Selmax, I mean, HL Broly if we've got him. I probably won't use him a lot of times, but we'll see. We'll test it out. We'll test it out. You know, and then Easy Attack Broly, let them sort of handle all the damage. I really don't mind a character not being able to do that much damage. I do just wish INT Broly was stronger, like, I mean, I want to use the term in his base, but it's more so just without the domain up, right? I think they were very close with Broly. Like, they've got a lot of interesting things for him, but I think too much of INT Broly's shit is locked. It's like they were scared of him or something like that, right? Like, it's like, I don't know, like, you look at, like, at Beast Gohan, right? Just so much of his shit is just free. Like, you just start out and he has all of these abilities. And I think it's a very valid to compare INT Broly to Beast Gohan because, you know, INT Broly is a DOKKANFEST LR who comes out, you know, right now in September. Beast Gohan is a DOKKANFEST LR who came out back in February, right? So he's quite old at this point. So it's like at this point, like this deep into it, I certainly would expect characters to start being much stronger, you know, compared to what Beast Gohan is going to look like. I'm not a fan of the key here with Broly. I think that this is a thing that could potentially, you know, be a struggle for him quite a bit, right? Is kind of like having like key issues. It's like I saw some people saying that even going for the 12 key super might be a bit better of an idea because he does have interesting super attack effects, which I guess we could talk about here. On his 18 key, he gets 100% attack and defense, and then he has a 50% chance for another 100% attack, right? He does also have stuns, which will be good. If we're doing, like, the Bulma fight, like, INT Broly could help lock down Bulma. Like, we kind of, you know, hopefully have Tech Broly able to survive, you know, a couple of attacks from STR Bulma, and then we could have INT Broly lock her down with the stuns, which I think will work well. But then his 12 key super, INT Broly gets 100% attack and defense, and then he gets a 50% chance of an extra 30% defense right there. So, I mean, I could certainly see it, right? Like, maybe it just intentionally aiming more so for the 12 key. So, we do jump in here, and then obviously, Sidra can be a bit scary with some of these AoEs. So, we do get wiped out. I mean, that's kind of like Easy Attack Broly's sort of like one weakness there. Is going up against like AoE bosses. So I just hopped right back into a fight where we're not going to be going up against the AoE ones, right? Because that one has both Moscow and Sidra, right? Who both kind of like can be AoEs. I don't think that like Easy Attack Broly, his weakness to EZAs, it's not the biggest deal in the world right now, right? Like being able to get killed by EZAs. Like or being able to be killed by like AoEs. I don't think it's the biggest problem. It's not like that's like a super driving force right now in like kind of like the meta of what difficult bosses are doing at the moment. I mean, certainly, you know, an elite character could be able to handle those even better, but... Alright, so here's a super attack towards Tech Broly, and he does live that. He takes 500k, but he does actually live. I'm curious, what is Hellas's damage? I think she's right around 2 million. I want to double check that. I want to see what Hellas's damage is right there. Because, like, 500k is not very good, but it depends on how hard Hellas herself is hitting. I mean, we know that EZA Tech Broly is not good in base, though. So it's not really too shocking there. I just want to find... I always have trouble finding the God event stats. Alright, let's see how hard Hellas is hitting here. So Hellas... Super's for 1.7. Yeah, okay. So Broly took a lot of damage right there. I mean, do we think that maybe INT Broly being on rotation to give that 40% defensive, like would that have, like, that might have, I don't know if that would have been the difference between him living or dying. Because we did survive with a good, what, like 200k HP or something like that. Now, I don't think it's going to come into play too often, INT Broly healing with his, because he, remember, when he gets type orbs, INT Broly does heal, what is it, 2% HP? Most of the time, again, I don't think it's going to be the biggest factor in the world, but, like, you know, we did take some damage early on, and now we can kind of work our way back up. Now, here's something that is pretty big, right? And I do like kind of like showing Broly against this Beerus boss. This could be one of the reasons right here. That Broly could have big value moving forward, right? So we've got we have several domains in the game at this point, but all of them are like kind of like deep in the fight, right? Like, you know, Tech UI Goku is his third rotation, and I guess Rose we could do second turn, huh? But INT Broly, you know, being able to pop his domain right at the start of one of these fights, which we did right here, this Beerus is a territory boss. So by throwing up INT Broly's domain, all right, let's see. Well, okay, I was gonna say let's see the damage we take right here. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know that that's the best. This Beerus does hit really hard, but Beerus also, like, he gets the big buff from his territory, which is off. So that's only, it's a 1.8 million super with a 40% defensive debuff. Like, I don't know. I'm definitely, I don't think I would be a huge fan of INT Broly at 55%. I mean, I don't consider myself a master of characters at 55%. No way. Like, I feel like I definitely understand well how characters are going to perform, like when they're rainbowed and max link and stuff like that. But I would not consider myself a 55% unit expert, right? No way. Definitely not. Definitely not. Definitely not. Okay, so, yeah, like I mentioned the orb healing we can get with type orbs, which could help bring us back. You know, INT Broly, especially if the domain is up, I mean, he's almost always going to be living these attacks. And then I guess kind of like the point there is that he could survive these hits and then potentially be able to heal some of the HP back with the type orb change, with the type, well, not type orb changing. Well, he does have type orb changing when the domain is up and obviously after he revives. Getting the revive off, though, I do think is going to be fairly tricky because it is his third rotation. But then there's no other conditions besides that, which I do like. So he has a couple of things, right? Like, the domain right away could age well if they would give us a really powerful boss who would use, like, a territory right away. INT Broly could be a huge counter to that, being able to pop his domain literally second one. Like, we could use his domain whenever we want to, provided we have the full uncontrollable power rotation, which is really good. So I definitely am a fan of that. And then there's also the fact that he's got that revive. Now, you know, it does have to be his third turn, but I really like that there's no other condition besides that, right? Like, a lot of the times, I use the Goku and Frieza fight definitely as the gauge right now, because it's just much harder than all the rest of the fights. It feels kind of, like, it's separated by quite a bit. So I do like to use that as the gauge. I don't want to fall in love with it to the point where I don't, like, consider, you know, like, if a character's bad against Goku and Frieza, that they can't be, like, good against the rest of the game or something like that, right? Like, I definitely don't want to fall into that. But, well, Broly's revive would work really good for that fight, too, by the way. Because, like, once you get... I mean, I don't know. We probably will move very fast through, like, the 17 and, you know, Gohan and Frieza portion of the fight, of course. You know, but we could kind of see. Now, all right, so here's Champa. Champa's the boss who actually did quite a bit of damage to my INT Broly when we did the Rainbow Level 10 Link video. I wasn't really too impressed. So it's like, that does show me that INT Broly, like, he's not really going to be super good if that domain is not up, or I think if you've revived. Because if you've revived with him, he gets that really strong extra defensive ability, which is, what is it, the 60% defense when receiving an attack. That, I think, will help his defense quite a bit. And then, of course, if he himself has revived, he's going to be giving uncontrollable power category allies 60% attack and defense. I think my big issue with this Broly... Yeah, there's Tech Broly going crazy. Remember, Tech Broly's damage is going to go even way up with INT Broly having his domain and shit like that up for sure, right? I think the thing with INT Broly for me is he's got a bunch of locked abilities. I just wish one of them was for free, right? So, like, if he would get that 60% defense when receiving an attack, if that was free, it would be a huge buff to him. If his guard was free, he would... I think I'd like him a lot better. You know, I think even his support, I feel like they could have just given him the support. Or if his active wasn't as heavily conditional, right? Like, it's kind of, because of the way he is not that impressive, unless his domain is up, it does lock team building quite a bit, because you're going to want to make sure you can have the full uncontrollable power rotation to be able to go into the domain whenever you want. If we're fighting a Goku family boss, we of course can, you know, go into it whenever, but yeah, so there Belmont takes us out right there, so we actually get the revive now. All right, so we got the revive up. So remember, just from any character reviving, both Brolys will now have the 60% defense when they get hit. So that's going to be huge, right? That, I think, will really make Broly feel a lot better, that he's going to get that extra defense after being hit. Unfortunately, though, his support, that only triggers on the Broly that revived. So that uncontrollable power support, the absolute earliest turn you could get the support with perfect RNG would be turn 7, right? Because you would need to have Broly revive on turn 5, and then on his next turn, he would actually have the support up. And then, you know, he'd be able to get that 60% attack and defense. So it does take quite a while before we will potentially get there, which, I mean, I certainly do think is a bit of an issue. But, I mean, I probably would say I like Broly's revive condition. I mean, Evolution Blue Vegeta, it's impossible to get the 5 hits when in the Goku and Frieza fight, right? Like, you just can't do that. Whereas, like, with Broly, we're definitely gonna have Broly's active up, basically at all, or we're gonna have his revive up, you know, in the hardest portions of the fight. So, you know, I think I might potentially like Broly's revive better than both UI and Evolution Blue Vegeta, but it's one of those things where I'm gonna want to test it out first. I think, like, I'm gonna want to really wait and see if that's gonna be the case, if I'm gonna like it better. Because HL UI Goku, I've, you know, gotten his revive off much more often than in Evolution Blue Vegeta, but it's, I mean, HP conditions, like those, you know, can be very inconsistent, right? Like definitely, without a doubt. All right, so we'll get a little bit more footage, then we will finish up of the 55% Broly. So let me know what you guys think of Broly, and let me know if you guys liked the 55% videos. So again, what I did with this celebration, or this part 2, is I made sure to get the Rainbow Max Link videos out first, and then we did the 55% videos afterwards. So let me know if you guys prefer that, or if you prefer the old way. I think I could probably do either or, because now I'm good in terms of like the, you know, my resources and stuff like that. I think, like, you know, kind of like the link keys and stuff like that for quite a while. So I think I could do this style moving forward. Now this guy, I mean, I probably won't run this guy much, the INT EZATUR, but obviously if we're going up against like a Goku, you know, Pure Saiyan or Hybrid Saiyan or Movie Hero character, he could definitely help out quite a bit. And I think that Broly's domain, plus that defensive support at the start, he's another character that certainly could be helped by INT Broly, right? I think that's definitely the case. You know, some of these characters, like the Tech Broly, Cell Max the first time he gets hit, or this guy, wow, we had a good turn by INT Broly right there. Yeah, that's what he can look like against a Goku, right? Where he could just go crazy with, you know, super. Listen, I will cherish any turn I can get just continuous additional supers. I'm going to cherish the hell out of that. Absolutely. All right, so yeah, we'll just go ahead and transform Tech Broly. So remember, in this fight right here, this Tech UI Goku does hit, I mean, he hits decently hard. 2.7 million super. I mean, it's still good to see how he'd be able to tank this. But UI Goku only ever supers in slot 2. So we could put INT Broly right there in slot 2. I think if the fight is very short, that's going to play super well for INT Broly, which I guess I do like that, right? Like, I definitely prefer my characters being elite right out of the gate. If it's a short fight, and we just, like, you know, could pop INT Broly's domain, like, kind of like back to back to back, and just get, like, well, back to back, and just get them up at all times, so INT Broly has this good defense the whole fight, that could definitely be pretty good. Because I don't think INT Broly, I don't think we're going to see him struggle too much, provided that domain is up. Because then the boy is rocking, you know, 60% damage reduction with guard when the domain is up. That's where it gets, like, he gets really nasty, right? I just wish that the guard was free for him. Again, it's kind of like I compare INT Broly to Beast, and it's like a lot of the shit that they've locked for some reason for INT Broly, Beast just has for free, right? Like, the guard he has for free. To be fair, a lot of his Beast damage reduction, you do have to do various things to get it, right? Like, it's got, you know, conditional from his intro. You got to get, like, 24 key and stuff like that, but it just feels very free and easy for him. A lot of times Dokkan does like to let the anniversary LRs just, like, reign throughout the year. It definitely does feel like that this year too, right? Like, look at AGL Broly. I felt like AGL Broly was potentially starting to struggle compared to some of the top LRs, and then they dropped, like, the hardest fights in the game are perfect for where AGL Broly can become, you know, this god killer towards the end of the fight and be able to take out, like, Goku and Frieza or Bulma in, you know, nearly, like, one volley of AGL Broly's super attacks, right? Like, they definitely made sure to kind of, like, respect Broly. And Gogeta works well for Gogeta, too, kind of, like, midway through the year. So it's very clear. Like, that's, like, if you're a global player, remember that the anniversary is going to be, like, you know, very soon, and those characters are going to be crazy, like, you know, moving forward for a long time. So, there we go. I think we're kind of wrapping this up. Let me know what you guys think about INT DOKKANFEST LR Broly. I've got a pretty good idea of what I think about, like, where he would go in terms of, like, the top 10 and stuff like that. But obviously, I do just want to finish the long video first to confirm. Try and probably use Broly on a couple of different teams, couple of different setups, and sort of see how things are going to go for him. One thing I do like about both INT Broly and the Carnival Gohan, though, is kind of like the best aspects of their kit is definitely designed to work well against, like, the Goku and Frieza fight, which, you know, you guys know, like, they will drop a super tough fight, and they don't then go backwards, like, all right, we're making fights easier now. It's like, shit only ever gets harder, right? Like, remember, we had all the Fusion Zamasu discussions last year, and Fusion Zamasu very quickly on basically became, like, a baby fight, so. Let me know what you guys think of INT DOKKANFEST LR Broly. Love you guys. Mwah! And I'll catch y'all next time.